After the last debate, the one between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, I had a left-leaning friend of mine try to make the argument that even though most of the focus was going to be on Biden and how abysmal his performance was and the general complete inability to even speak, that it was detracting from the fact that Donald Trump in 2024 cannot debate. He was making the argument that if he was any other Democrat next to him and Donald Trump gave that same performance, everyone would agree that Trump had lost. And I thought that guy was coping. I thought he was looking for any lifeline he could to try and make the argument that something positive came out of that complete Joe Biden collapse. After watching Trump's performance today, I would like to apologize to that friend because he was absolutely right. Harris did a really good job of putting Trump's key weakness on display today. And that weakness is that if you attack Trump and characterize him as a loser, weak, or unintelligent, he does not have any ability to not engage with that attack and try and shut it down. If I had to guess what the Harris campaign strategy was coming into this debate, I would say that it really only had two aspects to it. The first one, if you're discussing abortion or healthcare, issues where Democrats are preferred, stick to the script, give your message, make it emotional, and just show that you are a better option on those issues. But if the economy or immigration come up, issues where people trust Republicans more, make your argument, make the least controversial statement you can, and at the end of it, just throw a very basic attack at Trump on the basis of his strength or his popularity. And honestly, I cannot believe how well that worked. The most striking instance of that was when the moderators went to the issue of immigration. They threw Kamala her question. She gave a very typical, normal answer, but on the end of her reply, she tacked on a subtle jab at Trump, completely unrelated to the rest of her question, about how Trump's rallies are boring and people don't like staying at them. Immigration is an issue that voters just trust Republicans on. They just do. They prefer Republicans and they think that they handle the issue of immigration, illegal or otherwise, better. It's what Trump and the Republican Party want this election to be about. So when this came up and Harris gave her typical answer and tacked on a small personal attack, what do you think Trump focused on when giving his rebuttal? In a section about immigration, he starts rambling about how impressive his crowds are, how much people love him, the fact that Harris will probably cause World War III, and then instead of getting back to core issues of immigration that people are really concerned about, he addresses a right-wing Twitter rumor that Haitian immigrants are eating people's pets in Ohio. I'm going to give conservative-leaning people here some breathing room because I agree that when it comes down to the actual questions that the candidates were asked, I think comparing them, Harris absolutely got more softballs than Trump did. But I think criticizing him is still valid because if he knew where he was going, and he said beforehand that ABC was a very biased and terrible network that was opposed to him, if he knew he was going into that and that it was going to be a 3-on-1 with the two moderators and Harris against him, shouldn't he have prepared better than this? The Harris campaign wanted the mics to be on in negotiations for this debate. They wanted the microphones to always be on because they're not exactly trying to hide it. They want as much time as possible for Trump to possibly say weird shit. Stuff that just scares away moderate voters. And despite being aware of that and the fact that the microphones weren't live, he still did it anyway. When it came to the issue of fracking and Harris's flip-flopping on the issue, one of the biggest criticisms people in Pennsylvania have for her, the most important state in this election, Harris at the end tacked on a little, Trump is only rich because he inherited $400 million from his father. And Trump spent half of his time replying to that, talking about how no, he's actually a great businessman, instead of going after Harris's flip-flop. He did address it, but then also went on a tangent about how terrible solar panels are for the environment. If you look at how long each candidate spent speaking during this debate, total time, Trump actually spoke for 5 minutes more than Harris did. But it also feels like he didn't say anything. I would not be surprised if he spent more time trying to fire back at Harris and shut down accusations or personal attacks than he did actually speaking about issues. And when you spend that much time in a debate focusing on personal attacks on yourself, you're not going to win. I saw an article on Reddit this last week, which is already a bad start to a story, but it made the claim that a leaker from Trump's 2020 campaign made the claim that in 2019, leading up to the Democratic primaries, that the only candidate that Trump was afraid of running against in 2020 would have been Kamala Harris. And I thought that was the most nonsensical, stupid piece of Democratic propaganda I had ever seen. I think it makes a lot more sense now. Possible, likely propaganda aside, I think tonight showed us something that we all probably should have known already, which is that if you spend a majority of your professional career, a majority of your professional life being a prosecutor, and your job is to examine people in court, cross-examine, get under their skin, make them uncomfortable and make them say stuff that incriminates them, maybe that person is going to do well in a debate.